Hi, Mario.
Sameach.
Sameach. Yeah, because I was in Disneyland with my grandchildren, so I didn't know what time I would come home.
Okay.
I made it later just in case, but we came home. Susie, the kids stayed there, and Susie and I it was too much, so we came home earlier.
Which plot do you want to do? I only had a chance to study one, but it's okay. I can catch up.
We are on, I'll tell you where we are.
Pardon?
1 second. We're on Nun Vav, 56.
Okay. And by the way, before you continue, what do you want to do tomorrow?
Let's learn at 4:30.
Okay. All right. Okay, 56.
Mipnei shanu machalim also kesef on the choshes midochak. Normally, you're supposed to redeem meiser on silver, not on copper. But if you have no choice, you might have to do it. The loshi kayim came. You don't want to have your money made out of copper regularly. Later on, you transfer the kedusha that was in the copper into silver. You can do it if you have no choice. That's minat Torah. But regarding Demai, which is only rabbinic, matir of Meir, that you can do it lachatchila. On Rav Yosef, Avu b'yishem makabel Rav Meir b'pidyoinoi, machmer b'achilosoi. Even though he's lenient regarding redeeming it, but to eat it, he's machmer. The Tanya. Lo hitir limkor Demai. They didn't. Rav Meir didn't allow people to sell. Demai is if it's a suffix, whether they gave trumas and meisers from it. So they only allowed a wholesaler, l'siton bilvad, people who sold big amounts. He buys for many people. He sells in large volumes. So if he's mafresh again, he's going to lose a lot of money. So he has a tour not to do it. Balabayit, who buys Demai from an Amaritz, Benkach u Benkach, Tzarech Lasir. He has to take Meiser from it before he eats the Remeir. They both can sell. He gives it, and the guy who buys it will take Meiser from it. The seller doesn't have to give Meiser. Maziv Ravina. Halokech ben anachtam. If you buy from a baker, Meiser min achamelat soinenes, you can give Meiser hot bread to pater cold bread. Uminat soinenes alachama, or cold bread on hot bread. Afilu mitfusim harbe divramer, even if they came from multiple forms. Bishlama soinenes alachama. I understand. You give Meiser cold bread, which is going to pater hot bread, which is like Rabbi Loi, Shom Rabbi Loi. Even if you gave inferior produce as truma, it's still a good truma. Shenemar v'lotisu alav chet bar umchemet chalbo mimenu. Now, im ena kodesh nisas chet lama. If it didn't become truma, what kind of chet is there? So mikal l'torman hara la yofa shetruma so truma. He didn't do the right thing, but it still works. Ela filu mitfusim harbe. Now, let's say they were made in different molds. Lechesh dilma asilaf rushi. Minachiv alaptur. He's going to come to separate bread that is chayiv to have trumas meisters taken, separated for stuff that is not, and you're going to end up that something's not going to have meister taken from it.
Oh, because they consider different breads, right?
Different breads made in different, like, presses, shapes. Rabbi Lezer Shaper Kakoshale. Rabbi Lezer asked a good question. Shmuel lo Shaper Komishadile. And Shmuel didn't answer. Why? The Kashal Rabbi Eliezer had a problem. How is Rab Meir Machmir and his Goizer so much by Meiser, which if you eat something that hasn't had Truma Meisers taken from it, the punishment is Misa B'dei Shamayim, is only death from heaven. Mishanile Shmuel, that Shmuel showed that Rav Meir was Machmir by a get. But a get has to do with a married woman, where if the get is not good, Misa's Besdin. That's capital punishment. Dilma shiny Misa's Besdin de Chamira, capital punishment maybe is different because it's more stringent. And maybe only there Rav Meir was Machmir, to take a rabbinic law and make it like Torah. Rav Sheshes is also lo shaper kamoisiv law. Rav Sheshes also didn't ask good. Dikami inu misa Both Rabbi Eliezer and Shmuel are dealing with some form of death. Umoisav Rav Sheshes only on a lav, because it says by Meiser Sheni lo tuchal lechol bisharecha. You cannot eat your produce in Tel Aviv if you haven't brought it to Yerushalayim. It's only a lav, the malchus. Ulamai the Meiser Rav Sheshes. Now, what Rav Sheshes asked, Rav Yosef Shaper Komishanile. Rav Yosef answered back good. So Ravina Adam Yosef Minachtoim. Ravina asked a question from a baker that Rav Meir's Mekel Asayale Lepalter, which will help him from another type of baker. This not Halokech Min Palter. Somebody who buys from a wholesale baker, big amounts. Meiserman called Vusud Fusti Rav Meir. You have to separate from each and every type. What's the difference between a palter, a wholesale baker, and a regular baker? Palter mitrate plus a gavri zavin. He buys his goods from 2 or 3 people. Nachton also buys at least from one person, and he's not going to be mafresh on through an achiyuv. So Rava didn't know like Abaya because Shmuel Shaper Komishanile. He felt Shmuel answered good because there's Misa no matter what. Shem Misa Boila. Okay. Mishnah. Mario, there's some things where there's no overpricing and underpricing. Even if it's priced above a sixth, it's a good transaction. If you buy avodim, slaves, shtarois, contracts, karkos, land, hegdeshos, anything that belongs to hegdesh. Therefore, if a ganav steals them, ein lahem tashlumei kefil. You don't have to pay kefil. V'lo tashlumei arba v'chamisha. If the ganav shechts or sells, you don't have to pay the arba v'chamisha. Shomer chinam eino nishba. A unpaid watchman doesn't take a shvua. No say schar, a shomer socher eino mishalim if it's stolen or lost. Reb Shimon Omer kotshim shuchai bach riyusin. If he is responsible, guarantee for the hegdish, and he'd have to replace it, so those things yesh lehenoy no. There would be over or under pricing. She'enu chai bach riyusin, if he doesn't have to replace it, ein lehenoy no. Rav Yehuda Omer afamoicher sefer Torah. If you sell a sefer Torah, be'emu margolios. Animals and pearls. There's no set price, but Amru lo, the Chacham said to him, Loy Amru, Elas Elu, the early ones, not these last ones. Now, Menon and Mili, how do we know that all these things that we mentioned in the Mishnah doesn't have a no? The Ton Rabban. Bechisim karumim karla misecha. If you're going to sell something to your friend, O kanomi ala misecha, you buy from him. Al tonu ishatzachim, don't overcharge or undercharge. B'davra nikna miyad liyad. It's metaltalin, things that are moved, movable objects. Yatsu karkos she'ena metaltalin. You can't carry land. Yatsu avodim shehuk shelo karkos. Avodim are compared to land, and they're treated like land. Yatsu shtaros tichsiv v'chisim karu mimkar. You have to sell something that itself has intrinsic value. The gufo konyo. Yatsu shtar she'en gufon mocher, ve'en gufon konyo. There's no intrinsic value to a shtar. It's just the paper that it's written in. Ve'en an oindim el l'rayishmim. It's just the words that it documents. Mikan amru hamoicher shtaroiso leboisem. If you sell your shtaros to a perfumerer who used to use the paper as a stopper for his perfume, then yesh lemoina, because then it would be like a material. Pshita, why not? Why would it be different than other metaltalin? Afukim Rav Kahana. Shomer ein oina leprutois. Things that have a small price, there's no ona. Kamash balon. Even though this piece of paper bought by the perfumers would be bought for little money, there would be oina. What about hekdeshos? Something that belongs to the base of Mikdash is noin. Omer kra achi. Achi v'lo hekdesh. Your brother, not hekdesh. Maski flo Rabbi Bar Mama kol hechet echsiv yodo. We said something that goes from hand to hand. Is it yadu mamishu? Maybe it could mean borrowing. Can you have a whole country in your hand? It's a word that's a descriptive word. It's not mamish in his hand. Means mershuso, means it's in his possession. So the proof, the proof that we excluded karka cannot be used from there. So, I'll show you that when it says yad, it is your yad. Vatanya. Something that was stolen is found in the ganav's hand. What about if you find the stolen object on his roof in a courtyard? No matter where you find it. Timatzi mikol makom. Taima, because Rachmanim timatzi timatzi. Halavaki avamina, kolechet tzliv yodo, yodo mamish. Maybe hand means really in his hand. The Su, Tanya, it says, v'nosan biyada. You give a get to her hand. Ein li yada. Gaga chatzer kafem minayin. If you place a get in a woman's roof or her courtyard, she's also divorced. Talmud Omer v'nosan mikol makom. Time because Rachmana Nosa. Halavachi, if the Torah wouldn't have written Nosa, Avamina, Kolekha, the cause of Yodo, Yodo Mamish means his hand. So, Yodo, Yodo Mamishu. When the Torah refers to Yad, it refers to his hand. When you rent a person for work, is there undercharge or overcharge or not? Mimkar am Rachman of maybe only a sale. Or not, maybe there's no difference. Amrli Abai, Miksiv, Mimkar La'olam. It doesn't say a forever sale. Stomach sieve. V'hainami b'yomi mechiru. For that day, the worker is being rented. Boy ravachitin v'zarn b'karka. You have wheat kernels, and you plant them in a ground. Mau. Is there ono? Yesh lo ono, ein lo ono. Do we say command shan b'chadadamin? Maybe you're putting it like in a jug. The yesh lo ono. Maybe once you put it in the ground, it's nullified to the ground. Let's say the worker tells the owner, I planted 6 bushels of seed. Witnesses come and say he only did 5. That it's even less than a 6th if it's something that's counted. So that's not our example. The worker says, I planted in the field that is appropriate, but he didn't say a specific amount. But it came out that he didn't plant properly. Is there or not? Is it is it like it was thrown into a jug? Do we say it's nullified to the ground? Similarly, do you take a shvu on it or not? Do we say it's like a shomer put it in a jug? He has to take an oath that he didn't damage it, we don't take shvuas on karka, then oimer, when we bring the oimer on the second day of Pesach, we are matirin, you can eat now anything that was planted before the 16th day of Nisan. That which hasn't grown a certain amount, you can't eat until you bring the oimer the next year. Oh, ain't oimer matirin. Or maybe the oimer does not matirin. Hechidami. Either ishrish, if it took root, tanina. Either lo ishrish tanina. Whether it took root or didn't take root, we know the halacha. This not. Imishrishu kodem oimer. If it took root before the oimer matirin. When you bring the minchas oimer, you can now eat it. Im lav, if it hasn't taken root, asuri. Achiyavo oimer abba until next year. Lo tzricha ela dechatin v'zarinu. Let's say you harvested them and then planted them kodem lo oimer. V'asule oimer. The minchas oimer is brought. V'chilaf alayu v'lo ishrush kodem lo oimer. But it hadn't taken root prior to the oimer. Mahu. Mahu lemin kalu mechel minay. Is it mutter to eat it? Do we say, come on, maybe it's, forget about it, you planted it. Maybe it's as if you put it in a box in your house. And therefore the bringing of the minchas oimer allows you to eat it. O demagav ara. Maybe it's considered part of the ground. So all these questions take. Tomorrow we'll learn at 4:30.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Have a great Shabbos.